Hi, and welcome to the 2.1 Flipped Classroom PowerPoint lecture. This is your guys' first lecture of the year. You want to make sure that you have the yellow worksheet notes that you should have for the 2.1 PowerPoint. You have two highlighters, any two colors you want, and also something to write with. If you don't have those three things, then push pause and go grab them and come on back. All right, so this is the Rise of the Roman Empire PowerPoint. The title's already on your yellow worksheet, but right underneath that title, there is room for you to write the two EQs that you see on the slide right now. Everybody writes at a different pace, so I let you know what you need to write down. And if you need more time than I'm giving you before I'm going to move on to the next slide, feel free to push pause at any time, finish writing what you need to write, and then push play and keep on going. For example, right now I'm moving on, so if you are not done with the two EQs, go ahead and push pause here before you keep going. All right, so this is a review PowerPoint. You guys finished your 6th grade year with stuff about Rome, so you should know a lot of this stuff already, and we're just refreshing your memory. Okay, you might remember the story of Romulus and Remus, the boys that were brothers who grew up by a she-wolf and ultimately ended up wanting to establish the settlement of Rome and were competing to see who would be the better king. And one got jealous of the other and killed him, right? So that is the mythological story, at least, of how Rome got started. But what you want to know for your notes is that Rome starts as a settlement. So you want to notice that anytime you write anything down today that's in red on this particular PowerPoint, that means it is super duper important. And one of your highlighters that you're going to use today is going to be your super duper highlighter color. Okay, so pick which color you want for that. And if you happen to write something down and it's red, make sure that you highlight it with that super duper highlighter color because that information will most likely show up on a test or a quiz. Also, you might notice that there is some double underlined words in this PowerPoint. They are yellow. If you see a double underlined word, those are words you must include in your summary after the end of this lecture here. And so you want to make sure you take the other highlighter color that you have on you, and you are going to underline those words when you write them down with that highlighter color so that you know they are one of the summary vocabulary words. So taking a look at your yellow notes here, you have how does Rome begin? So obviously, if you look at the slide, you can see that it starts as a settlement in near the center of what's now Italy. Okay, it wasn't called Italy yet back then, but almost right smack dab in the middle of what is now Italy, that boot shape that you see when you look at a map of Europe, that is where Rome begins as a settlement. Okay, because they have great farming being located on the Tiber River right there, they're able to maintain enough crops to feed the people and have a surplus, and they can use that crops that they grow for trade. And additionally, because they're on the Tiber River, it's easy access for trade, not only by land, but also by the river, and people can boat in and trade with people living in the settlement of Rome. So your first question is, how does Rome begin? And you want to make sure you have there that it is a settlement that starts in what is now Italy. The second question asked you, why did Rome have a prosperous trade industry? There's two reasons for that, guys. Can you figure out what they are? Yeah, okay, the first reason is they've got a good environment for farming, just like I told you. And so they have that extra amount of crops that they can use to trade with. The second reason is because they're located on a river, which makes it help to have easier access for trade goods. So that's what you want to have for your number 2 answer on your yellow worksheet. If you're not quite ready yet, make sure you push pause here because I'm moving on. All right, so what happens as Rome grows? It's really prospering and doing well for itself. And as it continues to grow, it's too big to really be a settlement anymore. They need a stronger form of government. And ultimately, what happens is they end up deciding to become a kingdom. Notice that number 3 on your yellow question sheet is what happens as Rome grows. And the answer is it becomes a kingdom. Notice that stuff is in red. Remember, if something is in red, you want to mark it with your super duper highlighter color because it's super duper important information. And again, if something's double underlined in yellow, you want to make sure that you use your summary vocab highlighter to highlight that stuff or underline it with the highlighter as well. So Rome becomes a kingdom around 800 BC, which means this is well before Christianity has been established in the Roman territory. It does not exist yet. All right. They have about 7 or 8 kings over the course of several decades, and for a while being a kingdom works out for them all right. However, they end up ultimately with a mean, nasty, horrible, awful, bad, terrible king whose name is Tarquin the Proud. He is a super egotistical guy. Egotistical means you are full of yourself. You're the greatest and everyone else stinks. Okay? And that's Tarquin the Proud. He was all about him and his buddies and his friends. Well, you're the king. Shouldn't you be worried about your subjects, the people who live in the kingdom of Rome? Not Tarquin the Proud, not so much. So the people don't like him because he is not a good king. He's a mean, nasty guy. And so they start to get dissatisfied with King Tarquin the Proud being the ruler. If you look at question number 4, it asks you who was the last king of Rome, and it's going to be Tarquin the Proud. So make sure you write that down. Notice that both kingdom and Tarquin the Proud are not only in red, but they are also double underlined. So use your highlighters accordingly. If you're not ready and you need more time, push pause here because here I go. All right, here's an example of how mean and nasty Tarquin the Proud was. He kills his own family because he is afraid of having a power struggle. He doesn't want anybody messing with his position of power, and he kills his relatives and other high-ranking senators and officials that he doesn't want to have to deal with. Okay? Not a nice guy. All right? Another example of why he was not such a nice person. He's late to a meeting. One of the senators complains, "Hey man, our time's valuable too. You're late. You're always late." Big mistake. That guy, he's gone. Cut his head off because you don't mess with Tarquin, right? So he kills that guy just for commenting that he was late to a meeting, and he was late. So yeah, not a nice guy. All right. So what brings about the end of the kingdom system in Rome? Well, Tarquin the Proud, more or less. They don't want any more kings like that. The people of Rome are getting tired of being treated really poorly by the king. So they get together, they rise up, and they revolt against King Tarquin the Proud. They say, "Down with King Tarquin." And they kick him out. "You are fired. Do not pass go," right? Okay, so they kick him out, and they decide that King Tarquin was so horrible that, hey, what if the next king is just as bad or even worse? And so they ultimately decide they don't want a kingdom system anymore. They want a whole new form of government where they're going to have some kind of power or say in what's going on in Rome. Because with the kingdom system, the king's making all the decisions. And if he's greedy and mean and nasty, then it's not a good idea to have one person in total control. So the people want a new type of system where they're going to have a say in what's going on. Taking a look at your yellow notes, you want to notice that number 5, why did the Romans overthrow King Tarquin? Well, let me think. Because he just is horrible, right? So talk about how he's a bad king and maybe give an example there for number 5. Number 6, what do the Romans decide? Well, what do they decide? They decide to revolt, right? And kick him out, and that they don't want a kingdom anymore. No more kingdoms. They want something that the people are going to have a say in what's happening. So number 6, you need to put a few things there to make sure you have a complete answer for number 6. If you write something down from the slide that is in red, make sure you are using your super duper important highlighter color, okay? All right, so What happens to their government? Well, they know they don't want a kingdom system anymore. So what they decide to do is establish a form of government known as a republic. Okay? They want to be able to have voting power. They get to vote for who their leaders are when they use a republic system. And this way they have some kind of control over who's heading them up. And they don't want another Tarquin situation on their hands, right? So they end up establishing a republic. So number 6, what did the Romans decide? You filled out already, sorry. Just kidding. Number 7, what type of government does Rome establish? Well, they establish a what? A republic. So let's review, you guys, because you want to get this, okay? Rome started as a settlement. After a while, they grow and they end up becoming a kingdom. That works for a while until they have a mean, nasty, horrible, no good, awful king whose name was King Tarquin the Proud. They kick him out, they fire him, they don't want a kingdom system anymore, and they change their whole style of government to a republic. That's right. Good for you. Okay. So make sure that you highlighted anything you need to highlight. Again, notice republic is not only red, it's also double underlined in yellow. So you should highlight it with your super duper highlighter color, as well as underlining it with your summary vocab highlighter color. Okay, anything that's red, you highlight with the super duper highlighter color. Anything that's underlined in yellow, you underline with your summary vocab highlighter. All right, so that got us through, let's see, 7. We're through question 7. Okay, if you're not ready, push pause because here we go. Republics. Wait a minute. That sounds really familiar. You get to vote for your leaders. Who does that? Oh yeah, we do. All right, you guys. Hey, Mrs. Fox, why does the stuff that happened 20 bazillion years ago, not really, but a long time ago, matter to me in my life? Here's a great example of why it matters, you guys. You see history all around you all the time. We are a republic, okay? We vote for our presidents, and we vote for our governors and our senators and different laws that we want passed and all different kinds of things, okay? So we didn't come up with that idea on our own. We can learn from the past. We get it from the Greeks and Romans, guys. So we also have a republic type system. Yeah, the Romans, they're like, been there, done that, dude. Yeah. And of course, there's Jefferson saying, it's totally no accident. I dig the Romans, right? So they copy that Roman ideas on purpose. They like the way the republic system worked. Okay, so how does the Roman republic system work? Well, there are a few things that are sort of not cool, but it was very common for back in the day. Women, sorry ladies, you don't get a vote, because we don't have a lot of power back then, us girls, right? So you had to be a male to be able to vote, and you weren't allowed to be a slave. You had to be a freeborn male to vote. And just like with almost any society, the wealthier that you are, the more money that you have, the more influence and power you tended to wield. So remember, there's plebeians, who are the poor people, and the patricians, who were the rich people of Rome. Remember that from last year? Well, patricians usually had more power than the plebeians because they're wealthy and they can buy people off and buy people into voting certain ways and have more influence and stuff than the poorer classes tended to have. But in general, they did try to create laws during the Roman Republic system that helped everybody, not just a few people like Tarquin the Proud used to do. So it is a much better system than the kingdom system they were under before. Okay. Number 9, list at least 3 facts about how the Roman Republic system worked. So you want to pick 3 of these things and write them down. You smarty pants out there will combine bullet points. For example, the power rests with citizens and males are the ones that vote. I just took 2 bullet points and made them 1 fact. All right. So I'm going to stop there for this part of our lecture, and you can see the second part of the lecture in part 2 of our PowerPoint. All right, you guys. Good luck. Get it all written down. You got this. I'll see you soon.